Well, hello and welcome to another episode of More Perfect Marketing. My name is David Baer, and I'm back once again with my good friend David Foley, who, if you didn't have a chance to catch him on episode 71, boy, did you miss out. You better go back and listen to that one first before listening to this conversation. We're going to be talking a bit about his book, Postal Mail Profits in a Digitally Obsessed Age, and what you need to know about the economics of using direct mail for your business. Hey, David, welcome back.
Thank you, David. It's good to be with you again.
So before we dive into this topic, I'm excited. I'm excited. The book's just coming out now. We're recording this in the spring of 2022. It's really hard to say that, but we've been a third into this, or a quarter at least into this year already. And I recently got my monthly newsletter from the folks over at, I still call them GKIC, but Magnetic Marketing. And I'm sharing this with you, although we don't share the video out publicly with anybody, so nobody knows what I'm holding up. But the cover here says, "Using direct mail to increase high-ticket back-end sales," and it's a fascinating topic that they cover. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to see this yet or not.
I have. It's on my desk. I flipped through it, but I haven't read it word for word.
Now, for listeners who don't know what I'm referring to, Magnetic Marketing is one of those places that many of us who are obsessed with direct response marketing look to for information and guidance and a community of like-minded individuals. Well, what you may not know, if you're not familiar with this, is that a guy who is incredibly well known in the marketing space, at least over the last decade or so, named Russell Brunson, purchased this company, this organization, a few months ago. And, you know, if you think about Russell Brunson, who, if you don't know who he is, you better run to Google and find out who he is, because, or you shouldn't be in the marketing space. If you call yourself a marketing professional. He is somebody who everybody has sort of been following, and he has this not so dirty little secret, but the secret to his success is in part that everybody thinks what he does is all about online activity. But as this issue of their newsletter clearly outlines, he spends a lot of time and attention thinking about the relationship between both online and offline marketing, specifically following up with brand new online customers via the offline marketing channel of direct mail. And I found that fascinating, particularly because this idea is introduced based around the economic argument for why invest in direct mail and how much more you can anticipate bringing into your business with direct mail follow-up versus online follow-up. And that's really where I wanted to start with you, David, because I found this concept both fascinating and probably for most business owners and most listeners, counterintuitive.
Well, when marketing to customers, and I want to make that distinction, customers, not prospects. When marketing to customers, physical direct mail can produce as much response as every online channel combined. And that's an uncomfortable fact for some people, but it is a fact. So in that particular article, they're talking about high-end back-end sales, but it doesn't matter whether you're selling a $2,000 course or a $50 whatever. Direct mail can outperform all digital methods combined if you're mailing to customers. Now, and what keeps people away from direct mail, although somewhere in the neighborhood of 70% of business, 70% of businesses use direct mail. But what keeps some people away from direct mail is they think it's expensive, number one. And number two, it just doesn't get on their consideration set because they think, well, I can just as easily send an email. But if you send an email and if you send a piece of mail, you are not sending the same thing. An email is exactly that. It's an electronic piece of communication. A piece of direct mail, a physical piece of direct mail, is exactly that. It's something the recipient holds, reads, touches, hands over to someone else. I think we talked about this the last time. Mm-hmm. And all of those things together contribute to its success. So just to say they're the same is wrong. But what hangs some people up is they say, well, I've got to pay all these fees for direct mail. Direct mail doesn't have to be necessarily expensive. I did a little direct mail test for a not-for-profit this past Christmas. The piece in the mail cost $2 a piece, $1.99 if you want to be precise. And the mailing pretty much broke even. So in other words, all the costs, including my fees, were paid out of the results from that mailing. Now, that particular not-for-profit had not ever done anything in the mail before, and its mailing address, its list of mailing addresses had well over 100 errors in it. But regardless of that, it was about a 2,000 piece mailing, I think. So let's say it netted out at 1,850 pieces. Despite not having a good list, and that's fundamentally important, this little test paid for itself. And first out of the gate, that's not so bad. Now, when we do it again, we'll do it in a different way. We can probably get the cost down if we're smart about it, and we can probably get the response rates up. So to go from nothing to break even to profit is actually a pretty good pathway for people listening to this podcast and thinking about direct mail. And again, I'm talking with customers. With customer acquisition or prospecting, you can pretty much plan on losing about 20% of your investment first time around, which is why it's critical to have, as the article suggests, a back-end product to come and backfill that initial loss and turn the relationship into a profitable one fairly quickly. Because the best direct mail responders are those who have purchased more than once. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does, and it brings up a project that I'm working on with a client right now. Because unlike you, I'm not an expert in direct mail, but we have, but I am a marketer who understands the principle of testing, and so we have attempted our very first direct mail campaign for prospecting, not for follow-up with existing customers, because they have a continuity business. Their business is all about a monthly membership.
Right.
And we have, various ways to get people into the sales conversation that then sells them into the monthly membership. This is a physical facility that people come to, sort of like a gym.
Right.
And we're trying to find additional ways that we haven't yet uncovered and it's for an older audience, right? So online is not necessarily the best place to do this.
No, absolutely not.
Right. So we're testing with one zip code. Actually, it's not one zip code. It's we're doing an EDDM, every door direct mail campaign. Yeah. That wasn't for your benefit. That was for our listeners. Right? And we're just testing one carrier route with 3 postcards, large postcards with a striking image on one side and the same consistent offer with a deadline on the other side, with buffer times between them, so that I think the logic is, again, I don't know this stuff. I'm just sort of, I've read a couple of books. That's about as smart as I am on this subject. And so we don't expect any response from the first card. We expect some inquiries maybe from the second card, and maybe some sales and some additional stuff from the third card. But the economics we're testing. So now I'm curious, can you help predict if I've done everything correct in terms of targeting and messaging? And that's a big if.
That is a big if.
what I might experience in terms of results?
Well, the DMA, which is now called the Data and Marketing Association, which used to be called the Direct Marketing Association, based out of your former home of New York, says that in 2018, which is the last year for which they've ever published results, prospect mailings can get a 2.9% response. Now, that comes with a couple of big asterisks. Number one, the DMA members who are reporting these results are hugely successful direct response companies. So maybe 2.9 is a bit rich for your test. And I'd be crazy to predict what it might be. So I'm trying to couch whatever I say with enough.
Yeah, I set you up to fail no matter what, didn't I?
No. So second problem with direct mail to prospects is the format. So you have a 9x12 postcard, let's say. And you have information on one side in the form of an image, if I heard you correctly, and you have sales information on the reverse side. And the sales offer is essentially the same thing, just with different deadlines. But the question I have is, how much detail can you get in about the physical facility you're trying to sell?
I think I've gotten a lot in.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of text on there.
Okay.
Mostly benefit focused. After we finish recording, you're going to look at this and tell me all the things I've done wrong. But I think that I've done a sufficient job in connecting the offer to, if you're the right prospect, and EDDM, obviously, we looked at the data and said, well, of all of the neighborhoods, of all the carrier routes, this one looks like it has the highest percentage, 60 something percent, I think was the number, of our ideal prospect based on the demographics of this neighborhood.
And what's your total distribution in units?
In units, I think that the route is it's measured in hundreds. I can't remember. It's somewhere between 500 and 700.
Okay, so let's say it's 600. So that's 360 prospects, right? 60% of 600. And you're hitting them 3 times. That's a very smart strategy. Is the response going to a phone number or a website or both?
We have 2 offers on the card. One is actually we offer both routes. Come to the website, or if you'd like to talk to us, go here, or call here. And there's a downsell. If you're not interested in taking advantage of the offer, but would like to investigate this further, here's a way to access more information.
Okay, I worry about that last part.
I took that directly from Dan Kennedy. So if that's right or that's wrong, blame him, not me.
Confuse them, you lose them.
It's really a, if you're not interested but want to learn more, thing in a little box down at the bottom. But yes, I understand if you give them too many choices, they'll choose to do nothing at all.
If it had been me, and I respect Dan Kennedy as much as you do and many thousands of other people do, I would have taken that offer and put it just below the trim line of the postcard.
That means get it cut off the postcard?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But here's another thing to think about. I'd go out on a limb and say, of the 360, you'd be lucky if you get 10 members.
Okay.
But considering the postcard, and I'm not totally familiar with US pricing, probably came in at about, 40 cents a piece, printing and postage?
And the EDDM is particularly discounted. Yes. So it's somewhere in that range. The postage
part is 17 cents.
Yeah.
I think. So I'm trying to imagine what it would cost to print a 9x12 postcard, presumably in full color.
Mm-hmm.
So if it were 40 cents each, and you get 10 customers, what's the value of those 10 customers?
Well, the answer is that the ongoing continuity offer is around $200 a month. So
okay, they stay for 3 months?
And the stick rate, I think, averages 9 months right now.
Okay, so that's $1,800.
Yes.
So that's now $18,000 in income, right?
Right.
And so we get really pessimistic and chop that in half. $9,000. It costs you nowhere near $9,000 to mail those postcards. Even if you load up everything and make it fully costly.
Yeah.
So you'll do well.
Now, I didn't know those specific numbers, but I guessed at some numbers, and I came to the same conclusion, which is what made me say to my client, let's test this out. We'll see if it works. And, I don't know if I'm going to let her listen to this episode, but because she may ask me, well, how come we didn't make that 18,000 or even 9,000? We only made 7,000, but even 7,000 is a great success, right? So that, and that was really the point of bringing this up, is you were really helpful in walking us through what numbers can look like when you're making an investment in direct mail.
And could I just make one other point for our listening audience?
Please.
In this case, a physical membership product, and the current stick rate is 9 months. There is no guarantee that new people are going to last 9 months. So that's why I said cut it in half.
Mm-hmm.
And even at 4 months, it's still a profitable promotion. I mean, I hope they'll last forever, but that's not always the way it happens.
Yeah, and part of what we focus on in our business is retention and referrals and all the things that don't necessarily come from the focus that most businesses have on the initial, attraction and capturing of a new customer. And so, yes, obviously there's lots of opportunity to extend that when you're doing things properly. And I imagine that you probably know a trick or two about retention by leveraging direct mail.
Absolutely. I was in the magazine business for quite a while. And, you have a constant stream of subscribers who are about to expire. So you mail those people starting 90 days before their subscription ends to get them to renew. And if you're a small publisher with cash flow issues, you resort to an old trick called an advance renewal, where you go to people who still have 6 or 8 months left on their subscription, and you give them a hot deal on extending their subscription by 12 months. And what you don't tell them is when their subscription expires. You hope they will be so taken by the deal that they will forget that their current subscription is 6 months out. So now you're getting a commitment for 18 months. But of course, you're getting all that cash up front, even if it's only $11.97 or $12 per person. You're getting it up front before you've spent money to produce the magazines that you have pre-sold to them.
There's something really interesting in that. And as you were talking about that, I'm reminded of it's not Cook's Illustrated, it's Milk Street, which is Christopher Kimball, who used to have Cook's Illustrated, started this new brand after he separated from this old brand. I don't know if you know either of these brands.
I don't.
It's a Boston-based cooking magazine.
Okay.
And
well, I know Boston, I know cooking. So there
okay. So I subscribe to Milk Street and I get this thing, I take advantage of whatever the physical mail deal is with the special offer to get the cookbook, as their premium. And I'm now receiving on a regular basis every, 3 to 4 weeks. For $1, you can upgrade to the digital, access. And there in fine print is, after the year that you're going to commit to for the $1, it will renew at the regular rate. But nowhere publicly can I see what the regular rate is. What?
Well, I would have included the regular rate in order to communicate the value.
Yep.
Regularly $19.95, now $1.
Mm-hmm.
I would not have left it out.
And whether that's a good or a bad idea, I don't want to guess, because they probably have been doing this long enough to have tested the message, hopefully tested the different messaging. But the point I do want to raise is you and I are sitting here having a conversation about direct mail, but we're also having a conversation about math.
Well, yes, direct mail is all about math. I want to read to you the dedication for this
book.
What
I just realized that as soon as I said math, I realized the dedication in your book references
the book is dedicated to my parents who instilled in me a love of reading, writing, and yes, arithmetic. Because 90% of direct mail is arithmetic. Finding the right group of people to mail to, making the right offer, recording the results, testing, tweaking those results, and rolling out yet another test campaign, and testing again and testing again. And it'll all come down to a spreadsheet which will say we made or lost money on this campaign, that campaign, or the next campaign. And so if you don't have a calculator, you need to buy one. But generally speaking, if you have a good sense of math, and I think I do, then you'll do just right in this direct mail business.
Yeah, I love that, and I think that's one thing that a lot of business owners shy away from, is thinking about their numbers in general. But obviously, we talked about the testing with just one carrier route and one zip code, the ability to figure out, well, is there opportunity here before making a big commitment and scaling that campaign? And you just gave us, an example of what the numbers could look like that is really helpful to be able to model after.
Oh, thank you. I hope people do.
Here's another model that I want you to help explain a little bit, and maybe, put some fictitious numbers to, but I want to share another visual aid for you, which is this. Okay. I bought at some local grocery store from an As Seen on TV stand, a My Pillow. Now, I don't know if you know this brand.
Oh, Mike Rundell?
Liddell. Yeah. Who let's look past his politics for now. He's notoriously outspoken about his political beliefs, whether you agree with him or not. It's not about that. It's about the business that he owns. And so I bought this pillow. and there was a, I don't know, warranty registration or something where they then collected my contact information. And what I've just shown you here are 8 postcards, oversized postcards that I received with different offers over the course of the next, I think it's every other month for, so that would be for 16 months. With a different offer about different sort of tangential things that I might buy.
Except the 2 on the top are the same offer, or pardon me, the same price.
Yeah, they are. That's right. But these were 2 months apart. So the same offer, 2 months apart. Mm-hmm. So my question is, I've only given you some information. Could you help sort of fill in some of the holes or and construct what's going on here?
Okay, so let's first of all talk about MyPillow and its acquisition marketing. If what it does in Canada, which is relatively little, is similar to the States, they use mass media, radio and television, to acquire customers. And those campaigns are all based on what I've seen and heard, on a huge discount for a pillow. Is that correct?
Pretty much, yeah. I think they do infomercial stuff and talk radio, drive time radio ads.
And that's, I've heard the campaign in Toronto on a talk radio station there. And so what that advertising has done has brought you, David Baer, into the fold. And now he has your name. He is going to fill up your mailbox, as you say, every 2 months with another price-sensitive offer, another super deal, because that's the fundamental business premise of MyPillow. It's a great pillow, and it's not going to cost you much money. But he's not using radio or television to attract you now. He's coming right into your mailbox with those offers. Mm-hmm. And they will only happen if they consistently, I was going to say they consistently break even, or they consistently make a profit, whether small or large. Because at the end of the day, it all comes down to the math. How much does it cost me to mail those postcards? The answer is, in the United States, maybe, because they're personalized, right? So postage is about 35 cents, I think.
Yeah, so it's my name or current resident. And on these, I don't know what oversized postcards might be.
Call them a quarter.
Okay.
30 cents. So let's say in the mail, 65 cents. And then the question is, okay, how many pillows at $29.09, if that's the price, does he need to sell to at least pay for the cost of the mailing? Mm-hmm. And he would not keep doing it unless it was making him money.
Yeah. That's an interesting point that you make there, because, when we're looking at ads to emulate online, for example, if I'm saying, oh, I want to get into this business, whatever that business might be, I might go and do some Google searches and see what advertisers are advertising around that. And then I have software that can tell me the history of those ads as well, and whether they've been running for a long time. Well, that tells me that language is something that they've hopefully, right? If they care, if they're paying attention to their pocketbook, their bank account, they're turning ads off that don't work, and they're running ads continuously which do work. And I assume that's the same principle here in direct mail.
Yes and no.
Okay.
I would not ascribe the characteristics of online advertising to direct mail, to physical direct mail.
Okay.
So I would do 2 things if your listeners were interested in doing this. Number one, I would start paying attention to the direct mail you get at home. Study it, keep it. I have 5 storage boxes on the other side of this desk with old direct mail, much of which I'm going to digitize and get rid of the physical stuff because I don't have room for it anymore. So your listeners should study the direct mail that comes into their home and understand that a lot of effort has gone into that direct mail. Even those campaigns, the postcard campaigns you just showed me, effort has gone into those. So right. That's the place to start learning, and that is free, right? The mailing is coming to you. Second tip for your listeners, if you want to get a particular product, if a particular product is of interest to you, buy it online, buy it based on the direct mail or online if that's the only way it's sold at the moment, then watch what happens to your direct mail. Exactly as happened to you, you bought to an 800 number and now you're getting a postcard every 2 months. Number 3.
Well, so, but just that point number 2, it's really important, I think, that you're buying in a way that forces you to supply them with a mailing address. Is that correct? Yes. I mean, they can buy your mailing address from the credit card company, but most are not going to be doing that.
No. If you're, I don't know, if you're an amateur pilot, licensed amateur pilot, and you want a set of Ray-Ban aviator sunglasses, you buy them from a pilot merchandise, an aircraft merchandising company that sells aviator sunglasses. And they will fulfill it by mailing you those sunglasses. Now, they will start sending you all sorts of stuff that you might want to have because they know you're a pilot and they know you're interested in stuff that pilots are interested in. So that's what I mean by that. Mm-hmm. The third way is to go to a website called whosmailingwhat.com. They have the biggest database in North America of direct mail pieces, which you can sort in all sorts of ways in order to get a look at what your competitors might be doing in the mail. Now, Who's Mailing What is a paid research tool, and depending on what particular product or service you take, it can be relatively expensive. But if you want a quick look at who's mailing what, just follow them on LinkedIn. And they have a monthly blog, and it's a great blog. So you can get a sense of what's happening through that resource as well.
Yeah, that is a great site. And I remember the earlier offline rendition of them from, a previous life of mine.
Denny Hatch back in the 80s.
Yeah. And that,
I didn't think you were that old, David.
Thank you. It's fascinating to be able to see what other marketers are doing, and to I wasn't suggesting that you go to Google and you look at the ads and then you say, oh, I'm going to take that and use it in direct mail. But it's the similar principle of seeing what others are doing, and if they're continuously, consistently doing it, that you might try modeling it, and that's a good. Yeah. It's not a shortcut necessarily, but it's a good way to invest in the right places quicker, which I guess would be a shortcut.
I'll tell you a quick story about the direct mail campaign for the not-for-profit I mentioned earlier in the show. Fundraising letters have a particular tone and manner to them. So this campaign was all about making another donation by the end of December in order to capitalize on the tax benefits of doing that. So one version of the mailing followed the traditional fundraising method to the T. The other version, because there were two versions, even though this was a small mailing, went in exactly the opposite direction. And to put it in a sentence, hey, it's all about your tax deduction, buddy. It's not about the good that the donation will do. Both letters pulled more or less equally in this small test mailing. Now, to me, that was astonishing because I didn't think the, hey, buddy, this is all about my tax donation would really fit in the context of a not-for-profit encouraging more donations. And so when it's tested again this year, the, hey, buddy, it's all about my tax, that letter will become stronger, in my opinion. In other words, further away from the norm, and see if we can do something significant in terms of raising the productivity of that letter compared to the quote unquote standard.
Yeah, I remember that you referenced this particular campaign the last time that we talked, and there's so many lessons that have come out of just that one that you've shared on both these episodes that I think are fascinating, because as you've just described, it's a process, or to use the Canadian word, process.
Yes.
And the smart marketer it's not one and done, right? You're constantly learning and refining and hopefully improving along the way. And direct mail is not necessarily giving us as quick a response that we can look at online, but as I think you've proven from showing us some of the numbers, you can get something pretty reasonably quickly, not as fast as looking at your Google Analytics and conversions, but maybe a matter of a week rather than a day, and know if something's working to be able to then carry it further.
Most response to direct mail campaigns comes in 2 humps of a camel. Immediately that the direct mail is received, there's a hump. Then it falls off for a while, and then immediately before the expiration date, there's another hump. They're not necessarily equal, as in the case of the camel, but it is either the very beginning or the very end. And so your listeners need to remember that too, that they need to measure the response all the way to the end of the offer period and not get discouraged in the middle.
So, David, we're about out of time, but I wanted to ask your book, which is just coming out right now, Postal Mail Profits in a Digitally Obsessed Age. It sort of covers 2 different areas, and I wonder if you can take a moment to sort of talk about the 2 different sections of the book, and sure, then we'll make sure to leave.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, indeed. We'll leave a link as well for folks to grab a copy of it.
Part 1 of the book is essentially the business case for direct mail, and it covers why direct mail is important, why it is different than email, why it should be part of your marketing plan, at least in a test basis. And that part of the book also covers the 2 most important numbers in this game. One's called customer acquisition cost, and the other is lifetime value. And in that chapter, it outlines what lifetime value is, how direct mail might increase the lifetime value of a customer, and one of the most interesting ways to use lifetime value is to make some projections, kind of as we were doing for the Mr. Pillow guy and your other little campaign. before you actually spend the money, you just say, okay, this is what's going to cost. This is what I'm going to get. Will that improve or reduce the lifetime value? And often what happens is, in over a 4-year period, the lifetime value might go down as a result of what you're doing in the first year because it's front end loaded with cost. But by the third and the fourth year, it's higher, which is really what you want to have happen. So that's part one of the book, sort of the why you should do this. Part two of the book is a systematic approach to putting a direct mail campaign together, which starts with the list and goes through the whole process up to and including the analytics that we've been talking about. And then at the very end of the book, there's a bonus chapter on a ridiculously simple and inexpensive way to begin increasing customer lifetime value by offering a birthday club to customers. And the whole thing's laid out. I think
we talked about that on our last episode as well, which is, I think, a very, very smart way to get the list going, or really boost up the activity of an existing list that you're not really utilizing.
It is, just to be blunt, a no-brainer.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think we need to leave it there. The book is Postal Mail Profits in a Digitally Obsessed Age. It's easier to read than it is to say. And I'll make sure to leave a link to that, as well as to your website, David. And I want to thank you so much for coming on for a second time. This has been a great bit of fun.
Thank you.
Indeed.
And we'll talk soon.
Folks, this has been another episode of More Perfect Marketing. Thanks for hanging out with the two Davids today. And if you got something out of this episode, please take a moment and share it with somebody who can benefit as well. And we'll see you back again here next time. Thanks so much.